you guys hear me at all?
Yes, Matt, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I was gonna start talking to myself. I didn't want to say.
You know what? We did not hear you talking to yourself, so
Oh,
you're
good.
in the clear there, actually.
All right.
We'll get started in just a couple more minutes here. Thank you.
How many people are on, Erin?
We've got, I think we've got about 5 or 6 board members. We just had the executive committee, so I know that Mayor Bennett is still logging in, so. And then my view doesn't let me see how many other attendees there are, so.
Erin, once we start, are you going to put everyone on mute, or how's that going to happen?
We will. I think for what we did last time was just ask folks to mute themselves.
Okay.
And you should have the ability to do that. Are you in the app or like on your computer?
I'm on my computer in the office, so I'm on the webinar. I guess I'm on the app. Or no, I guess I'm on the computer, whatever.
On the computer. There should be like a little button that you can just click towards the bottom that has a little microphone if you want to mute yourself.
Okay.
And we'll do a roll call where I'll call everybody's name, just because there might be people on the phone that we can't see through the webinar chat app, and then we'll get started.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, for folks on the line, I'll just say we're waiting for a few more board members to log on here, and we'll get started in just a couple minutes.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Karen Darch is on the line.
Oh, hi, Mayor Darch.
Hi.
You know, and actually that might be helpful. If folks are on phone only mode, it'd be good to just get a roll call of who might be on the phone. And anybody else on just phone only?
Am I on the phone? I'm sorry. I'm
Oh,
having
yeah.
a hard time hearing.
Oh
Yeah.
no, I'll talk louder. I've got you. Anybody else on the phone?
Yes, I'm just on a phone, not on video.
Sounds good. We're just going to wait another minute for Mayor Bennett to log on. We were just on another meeting, so hopefully he can get on here in just a second. Well, while we're waiting to get Mayor Bennett connected here, has anybody else joined by phone? I'll take that as a no. Well, I'll say maybe we just had too successful of a meeting last time. And so I think right now, just for folks that are on the board, we can talk amongst ourselves. And I don't believe, my staff can stop me from talking, but I don't believe everybody else who's on the webinar can hear us just yet because they haven't opened the webinar. So if hopefully we can get them on here in just a minute. And if not, we'll try and figure out if we could just get them on the phone. The other thing that we could do, if he's not able to join us in just a minute here, I know that we had Anne as a co-chair. Anne, if I gave you talking points, would you, maybe I should send these to you just in case. Would you mind reading his points? There's not too much. You're on mute still. There's not too much in terms of content. Oh, well, thanks. I guess everybody can hear me, so. Let's see.
Hi, I'm on.
Hi, Commissioner Cox.
Yes, I am. Thanks.
We're
Good
just
morning.
waiting.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thanks. Just waiting for the chairman to arrive here.
If I can, I think this is the first time I'm using this digital format. I don't see things for muting or raising hands or any of that. Am I missing some features here?
There should be a way. Oh, let's see. Diane is motioning to me. It's over on the right-hand side, perhaps. There's a little panel that comes out with a little red arrow.
Okay. I just have a menu of everyone, webcams, Zoom, and screenshot. That's all that's appears.
Yeah, you'll need to go into each individual one and recalibrate for your particular setup.
Okay.
Your audio is clearly working.
Okay, so no, I'm good. I mean, I actually don't see, I see all of you, but I don't see myself, which doesn't matter.
Yeah, go into the webcam section.
Yeah.
And there's a drop down and you have to enable your webcam.
Yes, okay. Share my webcam
Yep.
or hide all webcam. Share?
Share.
Can I just jump in? This is Leanne Redden. There's an issue. There's only a limited amount of webcams that can be shown at one time, and so the limit's been reached. That's what the message I'm getting.
Okay, it's fine by me. I don't need to see myself.
Yeah, I don't think that they can see us either, though, because we're like, there's only what, 6 or 8 spots maybe available. I think that's the issue.
Okay.
So we can hear, we just can't be seen.
Sounds good.
Group problem solving. Thanks, everyone. And I just sent you a draft or the talking points. I don't know if you received them via email. We've got President Reinbold on. Hi. Thanks, everyone, for your patience, too, as we work out a few kinks this morning. So why don't we...
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Mayor Bennett. Sorry about this.
Oh, Mayor Bennett, hi, how are you?
I'm good. Are we
Good,
ready to go? Waiting for me, right?
We are ready to go. We were just coming up with a plan B, so we can go ahead and call the meeting to order.
All right, I'll call this meeting to order, Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. Remember, everyone, to press *6 on your phones if you're calling in, or to mute or unmute. And when you, if there is a motion, please identify yourself on the motions. Aaron, you want to call the roll?
I will call the roll. I'll also just note that the meeting's being live or will be recorded as well. So for folks, just mute yourself, but also just be aware of that fact. Frank Beal. I see Frank on the line. We'll confirm if he's on mute or not. President Brawley.
Again, you can unmute your phones with *6.
And I saw President Brawley's video just a second ago, so we will follow up and just confirm that he's on in the chat. Commissioner Cox, we've been talking to. Mayor
Yes,
Darch.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mayor Darch. I believe Mayor Darch is on the phone this morning. If you need to press *6 to unmute yourself.
Aaron?
Oh, yep. Great.
Here I am. Thanks. Sorry.
Great. Thank you very much. No problem. Mayor Noak?
Here.
President Reinbold? I can see. Mayor Rottering, I believe, had a conflict this morning. Mayor Rottering, are you on? Carolyn Schofield?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan? Anne's here too. She's on mute, but I can see her talking. And Diane Williams. Also here, waving hello. Leanne Redden as well.
I'm here.
Great. Turning it back over to you, Mayor.
I can't unmute. There we go.
Yeah, and this is Matt Brawley from Montgomery. I apologize. The organizer had me muted, so we can just make sure that that doesn't happen. It makes it hard to participate in the meeting.
Sounds good. We will
And-
make sure that is noted.
Okay, is that the roll?
Yep, we are good.
Aaron, Matt
Okay.
Walsh is here.
Oh, Matt Walsh.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Uh-huh. I guess, is there anybody
Okay,
else out there who wasn't called? How about that?
I
Any
think
board
everybody's been
members that I
called.
missed?
Jim Healy?
Jim Healy, are you on the phone? I don't hear Jim Healy, so. But we do have a
Let's move
quorum this
ahead.
morning.
Yes. Before you are the minutes of the April 8th meeting. I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes. Is there a motion?
This is Diane Williams, so moved.
Second,
Who was that?
second, John Noak.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? If not, all those in favor signify by a vote of aye.
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 Opposed, vote of no, and the motion carries. First item on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report. Aaron?
Great. Just a few updates for the board this morning. Last month, we shared with you a draft of our economic recovery principles, stimulus principles. We've continued to share these with our congressional delegation, and they were developed with input from many regional organizations. And so those principles stand as providing fiscal relief across all levels of government with increased assistance for those most severely impacted, really broadening the eligibility for relief funds, continue and increase support for transit, really focusing on infrastructure investments and funding should be strategic and timely, and that stimulus investments should reinforce and support resiliency across the nation here. I'll note for all of you that the Association of MPOs and the National Association of Regional Councils and the National Association of Regional Development Organizations put out a letter to Congress earlier this week to ask for the inclusion of $20 billion in surface transportation block grant funds in the next round of the CARES funding. So if included, this would support continued transportation funding for distribution at the regional and local levels. They've also asked, which I think came directly from our experience with ARA, was that funds be made available at 100% federal share, so that there would be no requirement for local match, just given the strain on local governments in terms of using their resources to address pandemic needs here and the loss of local revenues. So just before we get into the discussion today, I had a few facts that I think are critical for us to continue to ground ourselves in as we think about the importance of our region working together, is that our economy, our transportation systems, and our natural resources don't abide by jurisdictional boundaries. 56% of workers in our region commute across county boundaries on a daily basis, whether it's to home, to work, to the places that they need to go to get the things that they need to get. And nearly 890,000 daily transit trips are taken to commute or for other work-related purposes specifically. So in the Central Business District, transit makes up about 62% of the mode share, and employment in our Central Business District is composed of about 60% business services, about 20% healthcare and social services and education, and about 17% customer service. So, we don't know yet how these industries will transform themselves, but the changes could be long lasting. And so I think as a region, we need to start thinking about how we support, our Central Business District and the counties that surround us, because we are one economic region. People do not respect the jurisdictional boundaries, even though that's how we're funded. And so I think continuing to think about how people move in and out of our region to get to jobs, to get to childcare, to get to their homes and businesses, it's critical that we all work together here. So I think just lastly, telecommuting in the past has only been previously defined as only 5 hours of work from home. I know many of us that are working from home lots more than that. And so in many sectors, it's been much greater these days. But, typical industries that were working from home remotely before were folks in computer, education, and management, sort of rounding out the between 20 and 40% there. So, we will continue to keep our eye on some of these changing trends. But, as we think about what that future might look like on the other side of this pandemic, I think preparing our ourselves to, really be resilient in the face of change and find ways for us to invest in infrastructure that helps communities in a safe way and an economically competitive way here. So just a couple lighter notes here. In June, we'll bring you our budget and work plan for approval. We're in the process of, continually reevaluating where we thought we would be. I think that the core themes of transportation, regional economic competitiveness, and resiliency are still as critical as ever before. I don't think we've had an opportunity to really look at the impact our built environment and our travel has on our region in such a clear way. So more to come on that at the next meeting. And then just finally, I wanted to highlight some of the good work of our employees across the agency and partners. This was the first year we did public service awards. So we wanted to recognize a few of our folks across the region. And actually, I'm going to ask that my team just mute folks for just a moment here so I can get through my talking points. Award. How about now? Great. I got what I asked for, to be muted. So this was the first year we embarked on a public service awards program. We really wanted to highlight the work of our partners and recognize the work that they do on a day in and day out basis to support our 2050 plan. So in terms of an individual, our staff nominated Obayi Reed, who is the founder of Equiticity and also the chairman of our Human and Community Development Committee, and has made huge strides to support, bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure across the region, as well as many other, really important areas that are related to investing in traditionally in some of the economically distressed neighborhoods that we've noted in our long-range plan. And also, as an organization, we nominated Cook County Department of Transportation and Highways for their Invest in Cook program, really embodying the spirit of 2050 and making sure that communities have the resources that they need to move projects forward. That program funds a number of phase 1 projects, which are typically not eligible for federal funding. And I think we've seen some huge successes across Cook County in terms of that program success. So just in terms of our current staff, we had a great government award where the recipients were Jennifer Becerra from our finance and administration team, and Stephanie Levine and Simone Weil for their analysis of our committee structure to support you all and make sure that our committees are connected to the board effectively. Maggie Jar and Patrick Day, who volunteered to be our first embedded staff planners, won our Advanced Onto 2050 award, as well as Kama Dobbs and Russell Petroviak, who worked to develop the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program metrics to incorporate regional equity into the evaluation process. And then we had 2 other awards. Tom Murtha received our Core Values Award for excelling and really bringing our core values to life. And then finally, we had a Difference Maker Award. And over the past couple of years, CMAP has created an internal, from the staff level, grassroots up, diversity and inclusion working group that's really led our agency's effort to pursue equity in our programs, policies, and operations. So they received the Difference Maker Award. So with that, I will ask folks to unmute everyone so that we can get back into the agenda. I'll turn it back over to Mayor Bennett. Mayor Bennett? Let's see. Mayor Bennett, if you're on the phone, you might need to press *6. Nope, I'm hearing computer noises. So let's see. Well, Angela, can I hear you? We will try and get Angela unmuted here. Let's see. Amy, are you on?
Can you hear me?
There we go. Now we can hear you, Mayor. Thank you for your
All right,
patience.
great. I've got you actually up on the screen, but I can't get into voice. I'm on my phone for that. All right, next item on the agenda is procurements and contracts approval. Angela? Angela?
Yeah, I think that we aren't seeing Angela. So let me go ahead and run through these here. So we have a number of procurements this month that we wanted to bring to you. So first of which is the sole source contract for the approval of the Transportation Improvement Program database application. This is our program that runs all of the, holds all the transportation programs and projects across the region and helps us meet our federal designation for those projects. We have a contract approval for design integration. This is our web design and other applications that help us do our sort of overall agency design. We have contract approval for computer network equipment. 5.4 is for co-location services, and then 5.5 is for laptop computers. Happy to answer any questions that folks might have. Did we lose you, Mayor Bennett?
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Now we can.
I'll entertain a motion and we accept items 5.1 to 5.5. Is there a motion?
This is Carolyn Schofield. I move to approve.
Diane Williams, second.
Moved and seconded. Any final questions? If not, all those in favor will signify by a vote of aye.
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 Those opposed, a vote of no. And the motion carries. Moving on to the COVID response. Laura? Laura?
I am unmuted now. Hello, everyone. Thank you for a little bit of your time this morning. We wanted to share a little bit of the work that the staff has been doing since the pandemic started. We really felt like it was important in our role as the MPO to be able to relay information to our partners and decision makers and all of you that could provide some context, data, or analysis that would be help in making decisions in light of the pandemic during and after the pandemic. So I'm only going to touch on a few of the issues that we've been putting together providing analysis and sharing with our partners. We've been putting a lot of this information in our weekly update and on the website. And again, we're working to make sure that we share information on a weekly basis as quickly as we can. So whether that's around flooding or essential workers or other emergency response, we want to be able to share that information with you. So I'm, again, only going to touch on very quickly a few key issues that we recently released information on. And in addition, we had a webinar recently to go more in depth on these topics. And so again, to share the information with as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. So the first item that I just wanted to again touch on is some information around municipal revenues that Lindsay Hollander and her staff pulled together. Again, for all of these things, we all understand that the impact of the pandemic is uncertain, and we're having some more certainty around that with the governor's Restore Illinois plan, but obviously the length of the stay-at-home order, the trajectory of unemployment, business closures, all of these things will impact municipal revenues in different ways. But the materials that, again, the team put together was really to look at the number of municipalities and how their revenue sources would be affected and what percentage of their budgets are brought on by different revenue sources, such as property tax revenue, sales tax revenue. And again, this document, or the graph that you have in front of you, is kind of shows the different municipalities and their largest revenue source, whether, again, that be property tax, sales tax, or the local government distributive fund. I think it's important to note that while this current economic situation is not parallel, we did look at the recession from 2008, 2009 in order to provide some context. And so we saw then that the state revenues dropped 16% before they started to grow again in 2011. So the different municipalities will definitely be feeling impacts in different ways due to their different revenue sources. So again, we invite you to look further into that information. We have a longer full analysis on that and be able to answer any questions you might have about municipal revenues. But that's definitely something that our staff is keeping an eye on. And as more information comes in as we go through this pandemic, we'll be continuing to share information and analysis on that. One of the other data sources that we've provided, if we want to advance the slide, is that Craig Heather's team has put together information on the different modal movements throughout our transportation system. And so we've collected and shared data information on volumes of motor vehicle travel, truck travel, the speeds and safety information around those volumes. We've reported on freight rail movements since the pandemic started, as well as shared information about the transit ridership information. We will be looking to continue to update this information on a monthly basis to share with everyone, as again, I think it impacts some of the decisions that your communities are going to be making, again, around how this impacts motor fuel taxes, safety, and other issues that face our communities. So we will continue to update that on a monthly basis. One of the other pieces of analysis and information we wanted to share with the region, as we had heard people were very interested in how this was impacting air quality in our region. It was too quickly to use some empirical data, though that is still something we're gathering and looking to. But so we turned to our vehicle emissions modeling to look at what the different projections of greenhouse gas emissions might be with the reduction in our on-road travel. And again, with looking at our on-road travel, reducing about 43%, our model noted that this would be a reduction of greenhouse gases, again, only for on-road emissions, but about 35%. So I think the thing we also want to call out with that is if the work that we had been doing on greenhouse gas emissions reductions, even with a 35% reduction in the travel, in the greenhouse gases because of the travel, we still need to have reduced 80% in order to get to our climate stabilization goal. And obviously, having a recession or a pandemic is not the way we want to go about seeing our air quality improve. So it's still work that the CMAP staff will be continuing to look forward on so that we can see the greenhouse gas reductions and a strong economy. So that's just a quick overview of some of the topics we've shared with the region. We're going to continue to look at more information and data as it comes in and want to be able to share that with all of you so that, again, we can be making quality decisions as we start to move out of this pandemic. And I think I'll turn it over to Aaron from there in order to get some more information from all of you about how we can be most helpful. But additionally, the staff that worked on these are on the call if we have any questions about any of the things that we brought up, and I'm happy to take questions as well.
Any questions?
I think Mayor Noak has a question.
Yeah, I love all the data we're getting from this. It's great. And yeah, I'll tell you just anecdotally, us looking back and having been in this position during the recession and now during this period of time, there are definitely distinct differences in the way it's affecting income streams and just about everything else. Have we looked at whether or not there are pockets of different types of transportation increase? I mean, obviously, just anecdotally, we can see patterns on e-commerce deliveries picking up. Just something to keep in mind and look at, see how that's shifted, because we've seen a pretty dramatic shift in the economy, going to e-commerce, and then even on the supply chain, products that we move in large numbers to grocery stores and retailers are still open. We've definitely seen a marketed increase in that. And throughout, and again, it's a different pattern. Now the deliveries are coming in around the clock, even more so than they once were. So there are other kind of subset shifts in our traffic patterns that we might want to just kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, I think that we've been doing some work overall on e-commerce and looking how it had been shifting even before the pandemic. So I know that's something that our staff are interested in continuing to look at. And I think that's exactly the types of information we would like to hear from board members right now in terms of what your thoughts are and where we should be spending a little bit of time doing different analyses than we had planned this year. So to that end, I know that we will continue to dig into that, and we'll connect with you too, Mayor Noak, I think, to understand what might be helpful for you.
Very good.
So I think that was a great segue into kicking off. What I wanted to do here was just, and we'll see how successful we are virtually in having this conversation, but we had put forth a few questions to the committee here. What's your greatest concern for the economic health of your community? The second question is about information and data that you wish that you had or needed to make decisions for your communities in the current situation. So I'll just start there. I've got two other questions, but if folks have thoughts on, greatest economic concern, I think we'd be interested in hearing from you.
I think I've said there's a lot of focus on the immediate impact, but I'm starting to, and talk to a lot of colleagues about, not just the coming budget years, not just, where are we going to be at in the next year or 2 years? And realistically, a lot of these revenue sources for communities and the way that our economies are hit tend to lag. We saw this in the last recession. Even though there's differences here, one thing we can learn is that the pace at which things return, even if you want them to return quickly, don't always return that well. And oftentimes the way that we receive monies is locals tends to lag behind the immediate effects. So I think we need to, at the same time we're worrying about the immediate situation, we need to start looking at least the near term in the next couple of years and what this is really going to mean to the region and to individual region budgets going forward and what we might be able to do. There's things that I think that we've been pushing back that we may be able to look at and say, are these times to implement some of these things?
Great thoughts. Others?
Yeah, John, this is Jerry. I think recently, last couple of days, in fact, even as soon as yesterday, the Fed was talking about a HEROES bill. That's the next federal bill to assist local governments. And I think if you saw in that bill, they were talking about a relief plan now, and then within a year, So I'm hoping that the Fed is obviously watching how we are going to recover from a local government's point of view, and will assist in that manner. I think I brought up to the task force, which Aaron, you could talk about, because we've now integrated CMAP, the organization and the staff to assist in the economic recovery task force that Mayor Lightfoot put together a couple of weeks ago, and we are continuing to meet. But one of the questions I posed actually with the Illinois General Assembly in going forward, and how they're going to treat or have the ability to treat local governments and their ability to come out of this. As we all know, 80% of the cities and villages in the state of Illinois are non-home rule, which limit the powers that we have in trying to catch up with, or at least recover quicker than those who have home rule powers. And that's always been the have and have nots. And I think something to talk about or think about is approaching the General Assembly in giving additional powers to non-home rule communities for us to get a quicker recovery coming back. Again, other issues with the General Assembly and how they allow local governments to self-sustain are traditional ways in the past have got to, they've got to change, and they've got to give us the ability to, think for ourselves and be able to lift ourselves up by our own bootstraps, so to speak, going forward. So that's something that I think, talking long-term or even short-term to long-term, is dealing with the General Assembly in how they deal with local governments.
I couldn't agree more. And it was great to see that early sign of the feds starting to realize that this help might have to be spread over multiple years. And I agree with you too, that, now's the time to innovate, look at ways to get greater flexibility, to streamline and, find new efficiencies, new ways. Now's the time more than ever.
Can I jump into this? Is Carolyn Schofield. I just wanted to express from a outlying community and county, not only the short-term concern of, I know it's always been a challenge for the region, and we appreciate being part of the Chicago region, but at the same time, the further you get out from that Chicago base, the more challenges we have at times like this. So just kind of wanted to point that out. Currently we're struggling by being lumped in from a standpoint of with Cook County and Chicago, because how we're seeing the effects of this are very different than they're seeing in more urbanized areas. And I think long-term we will as well, because we're heavily dependent on small businesses, on those small town businesses, not on big corporations, which as you get closer into those urbanized areas, you see. So I just want to point that out, that we're very conscious of that, not only from an urbanized and Chicago standpoint, but also from the communities that further you get out from the city. And the mayor had a good point from the standpoint of, sometimes that home rule or non-home rule distinguishes those differences, but McHenry County and probably even Mayor Brawley, and over in Kendall County, I assume we see the same type of, we're very different throughout the community, not just in those individual municipalities, but kind of moving forward, keeping that perspective into mind, that we out in McHenry or in Kendall or Kane or, further out into Lake 2 do see different challenges than they see more in a downtown Chicago area.
Thanks, Carolyn. Others on concerns for the economic health of your community, or also, I think, information and data that you wish that you had to make decisions with? All right, let me move on to the next two questions that I wanted to put out to our committee members here. Is that, I know that there are lots of issues being discussed across the region, and a lot of it, rightfully so, is focused on near term. But again, as a long-range regional planning organization, we want to make sure that the steps that we put forth today don't impede our long-term goals here, or aren't in a different direction of our long-term goals. And so Are there issue areas that need leadership that you see as missed opportunities for regional leaders to come together around during this pandemic? And then, the final question that I'll put to the board here is just, if there was additional role that CMAP could lead on during the situation, are there, where would you like to see us lead?
If I can get back into the conversation again, I think what we're finding out during this pandemic, obviously, is a lack of the ability of the General Assembly to meet and to assist in some of the short-term decision-making items that are on the agenda. But I think, on the other hand, we've probably had a greater opportunity to speak with leadership from the governor's office to City of Chicago, and certainly with the federal representatives regarding assisting us in financial support. Hopefully going forward that they will be a lot more in tune to what's going on at the local level and truly understand our needs, that it can't be business as usual going forward. There's got to be a greater link or communication between the leads between local government and both Springfield and Washington. And I'm hoping that from an agency standpoint, we can certainly assist as best we can providing data and information and statistics and analytics of what we are faced. But I think eventually it's going to be the leadership of the mayors throughout the region and throughout the state to again approach the members of the assembly both in Springfield and our congressional delegation that they've got to work closer with us as to solving these problems. It can't be business as usual, and the future is going to be different, and we have to begin to think about how we're going to work together to accomplish that, especially in our Chicago region. We've got a great metropolitan region, and we're all in it. And for as much as we're a small suburb, or there are smaller counties out there, we're all part of a big picture here. And I think globally, or certainly in a macro way, we need to think about working with one another. There's such a great commute now between people in and out of the city of Chicago, and that linkage is even stronger. And I think that's why Mayor Lightfoot reached out to the region, unlike the past mayor, and really understands that this is really a metropolitan and state-wide need to come together and speak as a single voice.
And Mayor, along those lines, this is Carolyn Schofield again. Have we, I know we have the planning and the transportation end of things done. Out in Kane County, they've been an example, and we've seen it at some of our committee levels, how they've also incorporated that mental health aspect into it. Would this be an opportunity for CMAP to potentially reach out to the leaders within the mental health within the region to kind of collaborate on the effects of that and how those all tie together? Because I know that's been a trend in planning and development, and how the impact of, and we've been really good about doing that and incorporating like walkable communities and for mental health. But now I think we're being challenged more than ever in that area as well. And would it be an opportunity to reach out to those and partner with maybe leaders in the mental health industry within the Chicago area or within the region as well?
Yes, to answer your question, the task force is made up of 5 different groups, and one of them is mental health. And all of those groups eventually will funnel or sift through to the committee that's really made up of local government officials, to not necessarily the final say-so, but to have that final review. So yes, government officials will be part of all the aspects of that task force, including mental health, going forward. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to again see as a region, speak as a region, and move forward as a region, because it is local government officials that are on that governmental committee of the task force.
And I could just
say from Chicago that mental health is, it's right up there, with our top few things. We're talking about testing and contact tracing, and mental health is is right up there with all of the things that we're trying to juggle. And so it's certainly one of our highest priorities that we're looking to address and determine resources and how we can collaborate better in the city and then across the region. So would certainly look forward to those conversations.
Thanks, Anne. I was just going to share too that, you know, we after this have pushed coordinating committee from before the board meeting to after the board meeting with the hopes that they could have a more sort of fulfilling conversation, not be constrained by the board meeting start time. But, you know, our Human and Community Development Committee, I think, is constantly continuing to remind us that there are very important aspects of planning that relate to, you know, communities that we often don't think about. So I'm excited to hear what they have to say, and I'm sure that we can bring to you, you know, the community discussion, that committee's discussions on this as well. I think, you know, the integration of parks and open space in places for people has always been sort of one of the longstanding principles of the Daniel Burnham Plan of 1909, and that was because the factories, right, were such a burdensome place for people to exist in for 12 hours a day or 14 hours a day. So, you know, it's interesting how all of this continues to come back, and I think that's an important point, Carolyn.
You know, I want to say something as well. You know, I do have concerns. Even, you know, task force come and they go, they make recommendations and those come and go. Sometimes they sit on shelves. But agencies like this continue to move forward, continue to do the good work each and every year. And I think it's important for this agency to take a leadership role. There is a lot of regional fragmentation right now. We've even heard a little bit on today. The reality is there are distinct needs within the region. There are different ways to look at what's happening for the whole region, but we have to find commonality where we can get along, you know, where we can agree, where we can move forward together. And it takes agencies that are here year in and year out to do that. You know, we cannot just defer everything to different groups, and there are multiple different efforts and groups right now. There's, you know, groups that are just fragmenting. I think it's important that we try and come together within the frameworks that we've established and have historically had to try and find commonality.
John, I agree 100%, and I think that's why I talked to Aaron, in turn talked to Cook County Board President Prankwinkle, and at the last task force meeting, I think CMAP is going to play a very important and integral role in, if not the short term, but as you indicated, going forward, as the task force would disperse, who's going to be left with you know, the actual implementation, and certainly the record keeping, and certainly identifying and continuing to identify how we move forward. And this agency is in that position to do so. So I think they were all, Aaron, am I correct? They're all pretty much on board and taking our offer to help. And I think our agency going forward will be the ones that will hold the bag, so to speak, John, going forward, and trying to continue to push the agenda when everybody else dissipates and goes back into their private and public sector jobs.
Yeah, I'll say that, you know, we really view our role as assisting the Mayor's Caucus and the City of Chicago on that Regional Recovery Task Force, is sort of continuing to keep the long game in mind, and continuing to support the implementation activities that come out of that as well. So I think that you're right, that's how I see us being, you know, continuing to be valuable to the region. And this, everyone who's here at the table today being a part of that conversation is so critical, because all of your perspectives, you know, really are as diverse as our region. And so I appreciate the conversation that we're having this morning.
But may I say one more time, John, I think it's important for all of us to understand, as an agency, as we have done in the past, you know, can be a collection and certainly the driver of what the agenda is, but the legislative initiatives that are going to be needed to take place in the future are outside, unfortunately, outside our boundaries, in a way that about lobbying or certainly being effective to create change with the General Assembly in Springfield, or for that much even in Washington. So keep that in mind. That's why, for as much as we can do the work, we also have those who are going to be the influencers in making those plans come true. So.
All right, well, if folks have other thoughts about these questions in the coming days, or, you know, when you're waking up early or going to bed late, I would be happy to talk with you more about what you think our role should be and if there are issues or data that you need to be able to make good decisions in the short, mid, and long term here. So look forward to continue to working with you on this and seeing what the future holds.
Moving on to legislative update. Is Gordon and or who else is on?
So Gordon and Laura are both on. I'll just say that this is sort of a standing agenda item. And so obviously the General Assembly hasn't met, as many of you are aware. But I think Gordon's on if folks have any questions for us. I think if there aren't any questions, we can probably move on, Mayor Bennett.
Thanks. Under other business, I don't have any. Does anybody else have any other business? Other than to indicate that we will probably be doing this again at least one more time in June. I don't see, based upon the governor's stay-at-home order, that our board, with the size of its and the audience that's involved, will be able to do that. So I'm predicting that we're going to do this at least one more time in June. I guess we open it to the public, Aaron?
Yes, I don't know if we received any notifications from people who wanted to make public comments. Yep. Looks like the staff has asked the audience here. We'll give it just a second in case anybody wants to make a comment.
Hello? Yes. Which one?
I will go ahead and say that it doesn't appear as though we've gotten any interest in.
Yes, yeah, it's me, Garland.
Oh, hi, Garland.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
All right. I just would like to know about what I told at the other meeting before, at the previous meeting, about the crosswalks in Des Plaines and also the one in the city, Jefferson Park on Milwaukee Avenue, like putting the strobe lights in and to make sure, like, especially for pedestrians when they cross over. So I just would like to know what's the progress on that so far, because since the city Des Plaines says that under their jurisdiction, IDOT will not put it in there, and I wonder what's going on with that, and then so I can make sure what is what, and then also for the one in the city on Milwaukee Avenue by where the Jefferson Park Transit Center is, they have the crosswalk and have a stop sign, but no strobe light like the one at Harlem Avenue, like the one by Higgins going to the Harlem Blue Line. So just would like to know what's the ongoing progress so far and what's going on.
So I'll just say that, I know IDOT has a policy regarding some of these flashing beacons, and in the past they've sort of been reevaluating the status of that. So let me follow up with you and we will see if we can connect with IDOT here and have a conversation about that.
Okay.
Oh, Commissioner Cox, did you have? And you're on mute. Let's see, Commissioner, I can see you talking here. Hold on just a second if we can see if we can get you unmuted. How about?
Am I?
Yeah, you're unmuted.
Yeah. So my apologies, because I've been trying to participate in the conversation, but I was on mute at that time, and so the public's comment on pedestrian safety just kind of talked about a lot of issues that I think this pandemic has uncovered, having to do with questions of equity regarding pedestrians in general. Go to a screening place or get public health by foot, as opposed to being dependent on personal vehicles, has been something that I've been thinking a lot about. And practicing social distancing is one thing when you have nice broad sidewalks. It's another thing when your sidewalks are only 6 feet wide. And I've been interested in how, suburban communities have been addressing this issue of services, goods and services not being easily accessible by a lot of suburban residents versus, you know, I have been totally transit independent over the course of this pandemic. I can walk to a grocery store. I have access to broadband. I'm surrounded by health facilities. And so I think there are some larger issues that I think impact the region as people have reflected on whether there'll be a return to people's personal vehicles as their primary means for getting around and traversing the region, and what the impacts of this have on public transit. So what I had wanted to say earlier is that I would hope that CMAP would be able to be a resource in this case for maybe a more optimistic and innovative future about how people will move around the region. You know, the other aspect has been in, you know, the nature and the organization of work, and this idea of people talking about maybe nodal economies are going to be much more attractive. And even the way we're organizing work today, the planning department, 160 people, we worked almost exclusively virtually. And there's a sense that we probably could do this for months and months and still have a high level of productivity. So it begs the question of a lot of industries that are working virtually, and whether they will ever go back to 100% co-locating their workforce in a single place. So, I mean, I thought that those were two issues regarding the organization of work and the transportation mobility questions that I would hope that CMAP would be into a resource as we think that through. I also wanted to share with the committee members that the Mayor Lightfoot, is tying the post-recovery task force work very closely to her desire to launch a citywide plan for Chicago, in which CMAP will be an integral partner in helping to staff that work. So there's a direct connection between the recovery task force and the need to rethink Chicago in the context of a more comprehensive and citywide strategy. So I didn't know if the commission members knew that CMAP was a partner with us in that citywide effort. So those were a little bit of the comments that I was wanted to make as the questions were up on the screen, and I thought I'd share them anyway.
Well, thank you for that, Commissioner Cox. You're right. We've been, through our local planning program, have been working with you. I know my staff have been working closely to help figure out how we can best assist you on the community-wide comprehensive plan. And I think it'll, you know, that is the next logical step, I think, coming off of some of the task force recommendations, is finding ways for it to be actually implemented and how to take those recommendations and embed them into the neighborhood planning as well. So we're excited to be a partner with you on that.
No further questions, Aaron?
Did Heather Armstrong wanted to make a public comment?
Yes. My concern is about railroad crossings. They need to make more separated, like cross separation, because people get stuck in traffic all the time, or else the railroad crossing is very dangerous. And so it's like it creates too many problems having railroad crossings, especially like at displays, because like the traffic is blocked for several blocks.
Thanks, Heather. I know that we've been doing work on prioritizing railroad crossings, and I think too, as IDOT continues to move some of these critical projects forward while the traffic is, and most DOT agencies, whether they're part of the city or the state and county, have been moving some of these critical safety projects forward, I think, given that the traffic volumes have been much lower. So thanks for reminding us of the safety considerations and concerns around railroad crossings and grade separations. I think that is all we have in terms of public comment. Mayor Bennett.
Thank you, Aaron, and to the board members. Obviously, we hope everybody stays well, stays healthy, stays home. We will meet again on June 10th. My feeling would be, again, a webinar or possibly just GoTo meeting, Aaron.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my technical glitch in the beginning, but I thank everybody for their patience. Thank you all for your good work. I know everybody's working hard to try to get through this, and more importantly, as many of you noted, going forward, how we're gonna handle this and do it right. So with that in mind, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Gary, it's Frank Beal.
Yes, Frank.
I'll give you a motion to adjourn, but I wanted you to know that I was participating in the whole thing on mute. And I only got off mute 5 minutes ago.
So you want 10 minutes?
And offer a motion to adjourn.
I was going to give you moved and seconded. Frank, I was going to give you 10 minutes to talk, but if you don't want to, that's fine with me too.
No. That's all right. Thank you.
Again, thank you all. Please stay safe and we'll see you next month. Motion adjourned.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Thank you.
Bye.